What's good, everybody? It's the Clownwood Cap Show. Shout out to Tommy Fury beating Jake Paul in the Expedition boxing match. It was more of a YouTube boxing match, only 8 rounds. But I want to give a shout out to Jake Paul. Really stepped it up. I have thrown shade at Jake Paul in the past, but really, I think he really is taking boxing seriously to where he's come from Disney all the way to a completely different sport. I do think he's brought life into boxing. But overall, watching this performance between Tommy Fury and Jake Paul, we realized, look, Jake Paul, he still has a lot to learn. A lot of the punches he thrown today was just wild, out of control. It was more of a street fight for Jake. It was just like not precise punches, really sloppy. And I'm looking at Jake and I'm thinking he can clean that up. There's still a lot of potential in Jake. I just think overall, looking at Jake's performance, it was just more of like, I wanted that big hit, the big overhand right that Jake loves to throw. But overall, he only landed 49 total shots. 49's not enough. 157 total punches thrown for Jake, and that's really not like him. I think he was more on the defensive side in this fight, to where he, more times than not, he's over here on the offensive side. And yes, I understand he's fought washed up 40-year-old fighters. You know, Anderson Silva, one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time, if not number one. I mean, he fought him. He's way past his prime. You know, he fought Ben Askren, who's a wrestler, not a professional boxer. This was Jake's first test, and he definitely failed it. But overall, looking at his resume right now, he still has a lot of growth, and a lot of the things can be corrected. Like, you know, the jabs, only 25 landed for Jake, and I think, you know, his jab is a great punch. It really is. I think that's his best weapon, even though a lot of people think his overhand right, but I think his jab really kept him in this fight. I mean, going into the 6th and 7th, 8th round, the last 3 rounds, it was kind of still, hey, if Jake were to take this fight, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th, he could have won ultimately. But I just think Tommy Fury, you know, being born into a family of boxers, you know, uncles were boxers, his brother's the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Shout out to Tyson. But I think Tommy, you know, landed 88 punches. He threw over 300 punches this fight. 39 jabs landed. I think, you know, Tommy's jab really was the difference here. And we saw it from the beginning of round 1 all the way to round 8. His jab was his greatest weapon, and really Jake didn't have answers for it. You know, and I just think that comes with experience. And I think Jake, you know, he realizes, look, you know, boxing isn't just a game. It's not just a joke. You know, it's not here for publicity. It's not here just to get money. I really do believe that Jake really loves this fight. And what got me after the fight was, don't judge me by my wins, judge me by my losses. And I kind of felt Jake on that. You know, he's already won in life, you know, coming from where he's come from. But, you know, I don't think he's come from the mud at all. You know, he didn't come from the bottom. You know, he's a former Disney star and all this. But I can't knock him right now because, you know, becoming a Disney star to boxing, you know, they're completely different worlds. And he does want the rematch. And Tommy even said he's going to try to do the rematch as well. But I thought this fight was mainly hugging a lot of hugging and tucking. And it wasn't, you know, like a Mike Tyson fight at all. It just wasn't. It wasn't that magnitude, even though it's in Saudi Arabia. It just didn't have that feel to it. To me, it didn't. Watching it, it didn't have that feel in only 8 rounds. You know, most boxing matches are 12 rounds or 15. Like, this was only 8 rounds, and I'm thinking, why 8? This should go 12-round fight here. I think it would have been much better. But, you know, for Tommy, he landed 49 power punches to Jake Paul's 24 power punches. And overall, I just think Tommy, he's a more experienced fighter. He had the better punches overall, and just he moved better. I just think Jake, he loves to throw wild punches, dude. And that's not going to work against a top-tier pro boxer. You know, if Jake Paul wants to fight Canelo, dude, what makes you think he can beat Canelo if he can't beat Tommy Fury, dude? Canelo would dog Fury. Canelo would dog Jake Paul. That's just the facts of the game of the boxing world. That's just the facts of it. But for Jake Paul, I do think he's really elevated boxing to new heights. You know, ever since like Floyd Money Mayweather retired, the GOAT of our generation, you know, I think it's kind of gone downhill. And I think, you know, Jake Paul's kind of bringing it back to where more viewers are staying tuned, stuff like that. But I think for Tommy, man, this was a huge win for him. 9-0. And I think if he would have lost this fight, I do think he never would have heard the end of it. Even from his brother, Tyson Fury, his father, you know, there was so much, you know, talking But at the end of the day, when it comes to the fight game, you can talk all you want. You can say anything about their families, whatever. You can cross the line. But at the end of the day, you're the one fighting. It's not your parents, it's not your brothers, it's not the fans. It's you and him one-on-one. So you can say whatever you want leading up to the fight. I thought it was good for the fight, to talk crap, to talk all that, all the stuff that you wanted to say. But overall, we saw Tommy Fury just a better boxer than Jake Paul. That's what it came down to. More experience. He moved better inside the ring. And I think for Jake Paul, this is the learning experience for him. Now he's 6-1. He's not fighting washed up 40-year-old fighters anymore like Tyron Woodley, stuff like that. Not to knock Tyron Woodley. He's a former UFC champion, a dog, but way past his prime. Tommy Fury, he's a young cat, just like Jake Paul. And I do think we will see this rematch, which I think it'd be good, right? Another rematch, run it back. I just think the narratives would be so different, right? If Jake Paul would have won, would they want to run it back? Would Jake Paul, be respectful after this loss, or would they have mutual respect if Jake was the winner and not Tommy? I just think it would have been so different. It really would have. I think the disrespect would have been even more. But I think after the fight, we saw Tommy and Jake, kind of, respect each other out. And I think that's what true warriors are. That's what true champions are. They respect each other at the end of the fight, end of the day. So I think that's good. But overall, looking at Jake, I'm thinking, all right, there's a lot to improve. His movements, even dodging punches, even throwing punches. I still think Jake Paul has a great jab. I really do. I think he should have thrown more jabs. 25 jabs landed for Jake to Tommy's 39. I think Jake Paul, he really should have thrown more jabs. If I'm his coach, I'm saying throw jabs more. I just keep thinking that Jake was just wanting the overhand right. He was trying to bait Tommy, and Tommy was trained well in this fight. You could tell that, Tyson probably trained with him and said, look, Jake is looking for the overhand right to hit you and knock you out. And he can. He can knock anybody out with the overhand right. And we saw him hit Tommy a couple of times. And we saw in the 8th round, he did go down on Jake's jab. And a lot of people thought that was a slip. I think it was a great punch. And Tommy did not see it coming. And that's why I think Jake Paul's biggest threat is definitely his jab. He just does it so smooth and nice with it. But I just think his whole movements, it's not pro top tier right now. If Jake Paul thinks he can get in with Canelo, dude, I think it's a rude awakening. I love the ambition. I love the belief in Jake Paul. I do. But I just think there's a lot to improve here. Especially your strikes. They're just too wild, dude. They're just yes, and we could say Mike Tyson threw wild punches, but Mike Tyson was precise. And every punch thrown from Mike Tyson was with a reason, and it was to hit you. And a lot of punches were missed from Jake Paul. And they got the decision right. Tommy was the better fighter. He won this fight. More punches landed than Jake Paul. 88 punches landed out of 49 Jake's Paul. I just think, Fury threw way more punches overall. And I think Jake was more on the defensive side. I really do. But looking on the future for both these fighters, I do think they will run it back. Will they run it back immediately? I don't know about that. I just think Jake Paul, he definitely needs to improve on his punches. I really do. And really dug the jabs. I think Tommy had the jabs all day in this fight. He really did. But I'm not going to sit up here and knock both these fighters. They chased their dreams and they came true, especially for Jake. Jake, I called him Jake the Snake in the past. But I got to give him a little respect for taking this serious. Boxing isn't just for anybody. To get in the ring alone, you have to have some balls. You really do. You're going to get hit. That's just part of the game. That's part of the boxing game. And I think for Jake Paul, I do think he wants this fight really bad to run it back. But what's the difference if they do run this fight back? What's Jake Paul going to do differently? And I think it starts with just how he moves inside the ring. It's just kind of unorthodox, and really, doesn't really serve a purpose for me. It really doesn't. It's just some of the shots that Jake Paul throws, it's just I don't know. And I do think Jake Paul is good at, getting in under him and clinching up, which sometimes can be good if you're getting hit a lot. But I just thought this fight was kind of too much hugging, dude. Too much time. Out of this 8-round fight, I would say about 3 minutes of this 8-round fight was just hugging, dude. Was just getting tied up. And I don't really like that. And I understand that's part of boxing. But overall, I just think for the fan-wise, they don't want to see that. They want to see crazy punches thrown. They want to see a knockout. They don't want to see two guys hugging it out. And I thought majority of this fight was definitely hugging it out. And I think, it's not the same as UFC or MMA. It's just not, dude. And I think that's why MMA and UFC is just continuing to grow and continue to rise and becoming more popular than boxing is. because boxing, you can't throw crazy leg kicks. You can't take him down and ground and pound, stuff like that. But for Tommy Fury, this was a must-win for you. You were supposed to win this fight. Even though Jake Paul was favorite before the fight started, which I thought was pretty crazy. Money line, I think Fury was like plus 145, maybe a little bit lower, maybe plus 125 on the money line for Fury, which I thought was crazy. Fury's more experienced. He's born in a boxing family, dude. Like, grown up in boxing. So to me, it's different paths coming in and colliding here. To whereas Jake Paul, he didn't grow up in boxing, dude. He just really started this a couple years ago. And really, he's grown a lot in the boxing world. He has. I'll give him respect, but he definitely has to get better at just the technical fight of boxing, dude. He just doesn't have that right now. And I think, his trainers, if I was his trainer there during this fight, I would say, Jake, dude, continue to throw this jab constantly, dude. You got to throw the jab. That's what's making you in this fight here. Not your overhand right, which is great, which is a great punch, but I just think Jake was just baiting the overhand right. And Tommy, he knew it was coming. He did. The whole time, he just felt that Jake Paul, he wanted to knock him out so cold. But I think really Jake Paul felt Tommy's jabs, and that's really what slowed Jake down all the way even to the 8th round, even though he had that clean, nice punch on Tommy. But overall, looking at this, we know the better fighter is Tommy Fury. And going forward, Tommy Fury, he's going to be reckoned to force with. Really, I believe in Tommy Fury. Now, is he as good as his brother, who's the heavyweight champion of the world? Absolutely not. He's not even near on the same planet as his brother right now when it comes to boxing skills. He's just not. But I think there's a bright future for both of these young men, both of these young fighters and warriors getting in the ring here. And I think it was great attendance. It looked like Saudi Arabia. It was like an outside dome. It looked lit. It really did. So shout out to both these fighters. But moving forward, I'd love to see a rematch. I want to see Jake Paul go back in there and fight another pro boxer and see who Jake Paul really is. If it's against, Tommy Fury, or just any top tier boxer today, obviously Tank Davis, I don't think he wants any part of him. I think Jake would have to go down and wait to fight Tank Davis. But I just think looking at this, it was good, but it just wasn't the top tier talent that we're used to seeing for professional boxers. It just wasn't. It wasn't like it blew me out of the mind. It was like, oh my gosh, these guys are the GOATs. No, dude. You can kind of tell they're young. They still have a lot to learn. And I think the upside, I definitely think Jake Paul is taking this seriously. And I do think he can still get better with his technical game in boxing, dude. He's just, if his punches were more crispier, Jake would have won this fight. But that just comes with experience and time. So I think he will learn that overall. But for Tommy, man, this was a huge win for the Fury family. I don't think they would have lived this down if the son of Tommy would lose his fight against Jake Paul, a former YouTuber, former Disney cat, beating a professional boxer. Dude, they never would have lived this down. But, Jake definitely took some rounds off Tommy. I'll give him that. I think he might have won 2 rounds, 8-10, maybe 9-10. But looking at the bigger picture, we will see this. I want to see a rematch, absolutely. But for Jake Paul, he's got to fight professional boxers. He can't fight washed up MMA fighters, garbage cans off the street, dude, who are in their 40s. Jake Paul needs to fight these young cats. Run this fight back. I think it'd be great for boxing, great for viewers. So I think if Jake Paul and Tommy Fury run it back, it'd be great. So, but we know the bigger picture, Tommy Fury's just a better boxer than Jake the Snake Paul. That's my view on it. So shout out to Jake Paul for getting the loss, but really he's going to elevate his game even more. So shout out to Jake, but shout out to Tommy Fury, the top dog in this fight. It was great. Let's go. It's the Cloud with Cam Show.